Lovers of the association. This is your guy Marcellus Ease, and we got a good one right here between two of the top MVP candidates, but their teams couldn't be any more polar opposites. We got strength versus speed. We got the Thunder with a deep bench, and the Nuggets being so top heavy with Jokic, Michael Porter Jr., and Jamal Murray. And to add the final cherry on top, we got one team with championship experience versus the other team that's coming off of last season, which was really their first time gaining experience deep in the playoffs. But we're going to get more deeper into some of these nuances, and who could forget Russell Westbrook is still on the hunt for his first NBA title. But hey, I'm not going to say no more. Let's just get to it.
We make the rules, pal. The news, war, peace, famine, upheaval, the price of a paperclip. We picked that rabbit out of the hat while everybody sits out there wondering how the hell we did it. I'll go right.
Now to start this off right away, you're going to notice in this series the size versus the speed. And OKC all season long, they've been one of these teams that will smother you in the paint. I mean, just for teams to get their centers or power forwards or any wing, the ball around the elbows or anywhere in the paint has been an issue, as OKC has been one of these teams that are the league leaders in just deflecting passes and even on their closeouts. And right away, you see them giving Jokic, the 3-time MVP, issues in his spots. But even with all that speed and agility, my man Jokic is going to toss that weight around because OKC in the past offseason, they've had to address some of their issues about being smaller. That's why they went out and got Isaiah Hartenstein, add a little bit more size as Chet Holmgren. Over time, his body's going to fill out. But during the regular season, they've countered this issue by adding Alex Caruso and just having so many guys, even off the bench, that can just add to that speed and versatility to make up that difference. Right here, check out Christian Braun as he makes his penetration. Look how everyone collapses, sort of like an accordion. They just collapse in as soon as you kick out. These guys are fast enough to close out and contest these shots. But right here, you're going to see the conundrum in this series. Look at Gordon. The size and speed is always going to clash. Again, agility and strength is battling it out with Gordon and Caruso. But check out Caruso with this help. Let's check it out in real time. This is why OKC in a way is representing where the NBA is headed towards. Teams that are very deep, guys that are kind of versatile, even though if they don't have size, they're very serviceable. The Thunder have Isaiah Joe, Aaron Wiggins, Cason Wallace, Caruso, Dort, Jalen Williams, and that's Jalen Williams, Jaylin, not Jay Will, the starter. But you see where I'm going with this. The Thunder, in a way, they've kind of been very strategic. They've actually not necessarily drafted the best available, but they've actually drafted with intention around their roster construction. And with the growing global talent pool that's coming into the league, it's easier today for teams to do that than in years prior. And there's a few prime examples. You see the Cleveland Cavaliers, they're pretty deep. They have very serviceable players coming off the bench like Ty Jerome, Sam Morrell, and Dean Wade. And you could even go to the Boston Celtics, the reigning NBA champions. They got Pritchard, Hauser, and Lou Cornett coming off the bench and effectively impacting the game. Now right here with Jokic up top, this is where he does most of his damage. Look at Michael Porter Jr. He gains the advantage right here. He's making his baseline cut. And look at Lou Dort. These guys, OKC, they have a lot of players that can just come in and just strip, poke, cause havoc in the paint. A lot of guys with strong hands. You got Alex Caruso, Lou Dort, Cason Wallace, J-Dub. But even with all this, it's no wonder they finished as the best defense this season. Now, even though the Thunder did control most of this game until the very end, there was a few questionable shot selections by SGA and Jalen Williams. And coming off their playoff finish from last season, going up against the Dallas Mavericks, just dealing with the bigger Daniel Gafford and Derek Lively in the paint, and just Jay Will, probably a little bit tired from chasing Kyrie around. their shot selection wasn't as great either, and decision making. But we expect them to kind of build off of that, and mainly younger players just building off of that experience. Sometimes game one, they're a little bit rattled, but there was quite a few tall tale signs of them making the same mistakes. For example, right here, the Nuggets kind of gaining momentum, cutting into the lead, and Jay Will just very early on. This is not even a good look. Just rims it out. This postseason, he doesn't necessarily have to be, putting up 25 plus points per game, but he's going to have to show he can be that consistent secondary option. Even if he has to play make more, get his teammates easier shots. His numbers could be a lot lower than it is in the regular season, but he could make a few less mistakes added on into that resume. But right here, just taking shots like this it's not a good look for a number 2 option. And there was plenty of time left on that shot clock too. Interesting enough, Jalen Brown and Jason Tatum struggled with this before they had reached their apex last season in the NBA Finals. And sometimes for younger players, they have to experience some heartbreak in order to have that extra hunger. Like Tatum and Brown, they looked a lot different last season than they did in the 2022 Finals going up against Golden State, even though they were the favorites. They just looked more sure of themselves. The decision making was more crisp, more clean. They were more vocal on the court. And we're seeing the same growing pains from J-Dub as well as SGA. His shot selection, he could make things a bit more easier on his teammates. Remember, the higher up you go in these NBA playoffs, the more sophisticated teams are. Players typically on the roster from number 1 through, I would say, the first 3 players off the bench tend to be a bit more smarter on the defensive end. They're a bit more in sync. So a higher tact and a higher approach is definitely needed. And this played out for Luka last year. He learned the hard way. You can't go one-on-one against that whole Boston Celtics team where defensively their IQ was just insane. They have from their starting lineup all the way to, I would say, the first 3 guys off the bench defensively in sync. And one superstar, especially going higher up the ladder against these teams in the playoffs, it's not going to work. Now we could look at a nice example with SGA. Just look at this possession. No ball movement. Just straight up pulls up. Now he can take that shot during the regular season, but right now going up against a former NBA champion, it might not be the best thing to do. SGA got to use that gravity pull that he has with just attracting so many defenders and get his teammates a lot easier shots. Now we hop right back to J-Dub in the 4th and just check out this floater he takes. Got to eliminate these. The funny thing, Westbrook was guarding him right there because him and Durant during their 2012 NBA Finals run, they kind of fell into this trap in the finals where they play that it's your turn, my turn basketball. And things like that tend to run out, as we've seen with that OKC Thunder team going up against the Golden State Warriors in 2016, giving up that 3-1 lead. That style of play sort of hinders the great players going up against the more systematic, team-oriented organizations. Even to this day, Kevin Durant out in Phoenix still falls for that one-on-one hero ISO ball. Jumping right back into the action, these closing moments as Denver tries to mount a comeback, and look at this shot that J. Will takes. And the craziest part is that they're taking these kinds of shots as the Nuggets are crawling inch by inch and just trying to find their way right back into this game. And a lot of these concepts will play out as we'll get into the 4th quarter closing moments. Again, jumping to the closing moments as the 4th quarter begins to wind down. I mean, just look at these shots. This is where with OKC, in a way, you have to look at, is their offense really limited with Isaiah Hartenstein on the floor? Is it like a 4-on-5 battle with this offense and defense right here? Because it's just too many stagnant offensive possessions. It's understandable that Hartenstein gives them the size that they need because they were lacking that last season. But when Denver starts playing zone defense and Hartenstein is not necessarily a threat on the roll, anywhere, from the 3-point line or just anywhere in the mid range, you start to ask yourself, how limited does this offense start to become? Let's look at that one more time. Look at the Denver Nuggets defense as they set up. They're definitely in a zone. Look at Michael Porter Jr. pointing. They're in a zone. What can Isaiah Hartenstein really do? You see, this is where teams start to take advantage of OKC and sometimes their offense just having limited passes and also them kind of being stagnant when it comes to the creativity and the shooting. Here's another stagnant possession again involving Hartenstein, this time along with a few more members of the Thunder's bench. There's barely any passing as well as creativity. This is why some of SGA's shots are going to come into question. It's not necessarily him, it's under the circumstance. He has a number 2 that has questionable shot selection from time to time, and also his offense overall, there's stagnation periods. I mean, you look at Hartenstein on the floor, it already creates a 5-on-4 situation, and sometimes it doesn't really work in his favor. So you add on top of that, him just taking questionable shots on his side, it's going to pile on to the fact that other teams know that sometimes there's lack of ball movement offensively from the Thunder, and also they don't really have as many shooters as we think. Now let's jump into the closing moments of the fourth after Jokic cuts the lead into 1. And once again, lack of ball movement here. And Jay Will, he has the open shot right here. I don't know why he didn't take this. Should have took it. And you got slow-ass Jokic on the closeout. But Westbrook, shout out to Westbrook. He has been on his hustle grind for a minute now, making a lot of hustle plays, and he really bothers this shot. Him along with Peyton Watson really made a difference on the hustle plays for the Denver Nuggets. Okay, so now we're going to go to the very closing moments of this game, and there's a lot of different ideologies on how this should have ended, but at the end of the day, we need to keep in mind that the Oklahoma City Thunder do have the number 1 defense. Okay, so OKC's up 3 and there's 13.9 seconds left. And they literally foul to send Jokic on the line. And it just takes about a slight second off. Now, just keep in mind, OKC defense, once again, is the number 1 defense in the league. And all the pressure is on the Nuggets to make the shot. Now, after Jokic makes both the free throws, OKC now is in a position where they could possibly put pressure on themselves to have to go to the line. Now, right here, SGA has a clear path to the hoop. They're only up 1. But remember, there's only 12 seconds left and you have the top defense. So wouldn't it be fair to say he should take the ball to the empty side and waste more time? But instead, he settles to waste only about 2 seconds off the clock, which is surprising right here. And let's just put this into proper perspective before we get to the inbound. Denver has no timeouts, so they cannot advance the ball, and there's only 11 seconds left in the game, and OKC has the number 1 defense. So right here off this inbound, they instantly foul. Man, I didn't even think that foul was so fucking fast. I'm surprised the clock went to 10.8. But why? Nobody is a threat out here to score. They would never, ever take the shot from out here. And also, for potential closing play, OKC has way too many defenders in the backcourt. But that's something that's going to play out later. So fast forward, Denver makes both their free throws, and Chet Holmgren ends up getting fouled, which he's a decent shooter. But keep in mind, this is where the analytics crowd kind of gets shit wrong. They never factor in pressure. And this is where everything goes to shit. Once again, look at all the Thunder players in the backcourt. You're up by 1. You're no longer up by 3. Game. Sheesh. That was a tough pill to swallow for a game 1. And if I were the Nuggets, I would say, hey, even though sometimes in this series We're going to struggle from time to time with the scoring or just maintaining certain leads. But if we can keep it close going into crunch time, we could take it from this OKC Thunder team, because their offense at times, it becomes stagnant. They got players that are prone to making mistakes, and they're still on their come up. They're still learning. They're still processing certain information. But we'll see how it plays out. SGA and J Will, they got a long road ahead of them, and they got a lot of things to clean up. And man, this is rough. This is rough, but hopefully mentally they can move past it. There's always another game, as long as they don't drop the next 3, I would say. But hey, we'll see how it plays out. Until next time, you fellas, stay safe. Peace.